Everyone, and welcome to another edition of NFL Chiggity. Today we're going to be doing the AFC East. We did the NFC East last time, switch over to the other conference, and over the next couple weeks we'll be taking you around the country geographically, each division, souths, norths, wests. Today, however, we have someone new joining us. We have someone named Jacob Fayette. So, Jake, you want to introduce yourself?
I mean, how am I going to introduce myself?
I don't know.
Like people get to know
about yourself.
I feel like people are going to get to know me as I talk.
Okay, well, yeah, there we go. Jake's the best, everyone. Billy, unfortunately, could not be with us. Lucas is in Central or South America. We don't know where he is. He may be dead.
Yeah, where is he? Is he in Guatemala?
Yeah, he's in Guatemala or something.
That's interesting.
Which has one of the highest murder rates in the world, so he could be dead.
He could.
You'll have to tune in next time to find out. Anyway, we'll be moving on to our first team. So we're going to go in reverse order from last year. And we'll start with Miami. Finished last, not surprisingly. Let's see, Jake, what do you think? Any opinions? Anything? They're off season.
I mean, I think that the Cameron Wake extension should be pretty solid as long. I mean, he's apparently doing really well in his rehab back from his Achilles injury. But I mean, he's 34 years old, so we'll see how that turns out. They also, I think, had the steal of the draft. I mean, Tunsil falling to them was fantastic. I mean, it was ridiculous that he fell that far over a video that was 5 years old. But other than that, like,
Also,
I can't really say that much about their off season. I mean, I think the draft was good for them, but I mean,
we've
what
done
was their biggest move? Like
They signed
signing
Mario
Matt Moore?
Williams.
Oh, they did. I forgot
They
about
signed
that.
Mario Williams.
Yeah.
Also, as I said in my last podcast, I'm not a huge fan of Olivier Vernon, but I mean, replacing a 25-year-old, like, pretty decent pass rusher with Mario Williams, who I think is gassed at this point, I don't know. I never liked the Dolphins off seasons. I feel like they do too much. They tried signing C.J. Anderson. I don't know if people remember that, but Denver, it was a weird.
Yeah, it was weird.
Something weird happened with it was a tag or a transition.
So yeah, what happened? They had the transition tag, which meant they could match any offer, or it might have. How long has he been in the league? It might have been that he was a restricted free agent.
Well, he was an undrafted rookie in 2014.
So he might have been a restricted free agent. But anyway, what happened was he took less money. Yeah, he was a restricted free agent. He took less money to go to Miami than he could have gotten in Chicago because it was his preferred destination. And then Denver matched. So he really just ended up like not getting as much money as he could have because he tried to go to the team that fit him better. And
So
didn't.
everybody got screwed over in that situation.
There were no winners, no.
Yeah,
And I don't
nobody
even think
won.
the contract he got, I don't think he's worth it. It's like $6 million guaranteed this year.
He's like a slightly above average. People don't remember this. In the beginning of the year, he was awful. Like I'd say for the first 8 to 10 weeks, he was like not.
Yeah,
good.
people know what I think about running backs. I just wouldn't give a lot of money to them in general. So that's my issue with that. But they don't end up having to pay the money, so it's not a black eye on Miami's offseason.
Another noticeable move I see here for Miami is Jim Washburn is their senior defensive assistant pass rush specialist.
Are we getting the wide nine
The
in
wide
Miami?
nine's coming to Miami.
That would be something.
That also should win an award for most specific coaching title ever.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
That literally just hired him, I guess, to tell their defensive ends how to line up unnecessarily far away from the football. But
I mean,
if
I think
that's what they want to do. What?
If they really want a
Third and
wide
four,
nine
the clock out,
specialist,
the
get
throw
Jason
was
Babin in there. He'll get 10 sacks, but on every other play get blocked and like thrown to the ground. You know who that reminds me of is Kurt Coleman's whole thing with either tackling the guy or just completely whiffing. Jason Babin, I feel like, was like that in sacks. All because of Jim Washburn and his wide nine.
Wide nine is really good for sacks and getting pressure, but it can be a problem against the run.
I mean,
your linebackers have to be really good. If you don't have really good linebackers, it doesn't really work.
Yeah, and in that case, you're not. If you don't have great linebackers, you're running the wide nine. You're probably not going to get that much pressure on the quarterback, so they'll just be able to get the ball out quickly.
Do Miami have the linebackers? I don't think they do.
No, I don't think so. I mean, they have
pretty good.
Don't they have Kiko now?
They have Kiko. He's not good.
Kiko's
I don't
awesome.
know.
Pico
I
is
have some belief
absolutely
that he can still be a competent NFL player.
I don't know about that.
You think
but
it was just fresh off the ACL that killed him? Plus, he was in a really unfavorable situation in Philly.
I mean, yeah, you have Billy Davis as your defensive
And
coordinator.
then Chip Kelly
in
running
Philly.
that no huddle. He's on the field a lot.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't even think it's that. I think it's just the scheme. Can you imagine how Jeremiah Trotter, a type of player like that, would have looked in a 3-4?
not
Kiko
great.
Alonso's not a 3-4 middle linebacker. He doesn't have the mobility. And that doesn't mean he's a bad player. He won Rookie of the Year for a reason. Now, he might not be that player anymore, but that's not egregious. What is egregious is the trade that got him to Miami.
That was
That was
insane. I
can't believe that.
Tannenbaum strikes again.
Wasn't it over Chinese food or something, right? Like they all met in a hotel room in Indy. Isn't that what Howie said?
Yeah, at the combine.
Yeah, really,
Wow,
really interesting
That's an
story.
odd situation.
If you haven't read that, I recommend everyone looks that up
So
and
let's
just
talk
reads how the Dolphins front office operates.
Let's go over that trade. They took on Byron Maxwell's terrible contract because they had issues covering number one receivers.
Also, real quick,
Yeah?
they cut Brent Grimes, but then
Who was
bring in
that?
Maxwell.
He was bad.
Yeah,
but
Grimes was bad last year. Yeah, he was terrible.
Yep, I have more faith in him than Maxwell.
The point is, they got rid of a guy because he couldn't cover number one receivers to trade for a guy with probably a higher salary for this year who still can't cover number one receivers. And not just that, they took on his entire contract and gave up a higher pick.
Yeah, it didn't make sense.
It was a robbery. Mike Tannenbaum at his best.
Miami the reason you say they always lose off seasons,
Always.
it's because they try to make these short-term deals that are like big splashes, but they're never really good, either long-term or short-term moves. So, I think that's what.
No, you go, Kyle.
No,
You finished. Because
go.
I was going to bring up something totally different. I was going to talk about Tannehill.
I was about to say that too. I want to talk
Because
about him.
I was
before
so
we
disappointed
forget
in
Miami.
Tannehill last year. I always was
I
a
thought he
big
was gonna have a
Tannehill
big
believer. I
year.
thought he was going to have a breakout year, and he winds up finishing 29th in total QBR ahead of, listen to this, Blaine Gabbert, Sam Bradford, and then Flacco, who, as we all know, got injured, and Nick Foles. So that's really, really bad.
I'm surprised it was even that good. I remember at one point him and Bradford were like dead last. They were swapping on and off like every week.
And you have to think they both picked up their play towards the end of the year a little bit. Not great, but a little bit.
They did.
And they still were that low. I mean,
Who would you rather have, Bradford or Tannehill? I'd rather have Bradford.
I think
I'll tell you why.
Bradford. I think
Tannehill
Bradford.
had weapons all over the field last year, and Bradford did not. And they had similar. I don't know. Tannehill. There's something about Ryan Tannehill that just he just doesn't have it. Whatever it is, I don't like him.
He also doesn't seem like he's developed.
Maybe a little tiny bit, but not enough. Yeah. I'd consider him an average starter in the NFL.
Hey, you guys there? My audio went out for a second.
Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Right.
One more thing about Miami before we move on, I guess, because we've covered everything that's wrong. They made a couple. Yeah, I don't know what that whooping sound is. I'm sorry. They made a couple other trade ups. They sent a 4th-round pick to the Ravens to move up 5 spots in the 2nd round and grab a corner. And then this move was something. They traded a 3rd and 4th rounder next year for just a 3rd rounder this year, and they picked a guy named Laurente Carew
From Rutgers, a receiver, right?
He's a receiver out of my college, actually, Rutgers.
Yeah.
A very exciting player, sort of electric. He's not a great out-and-out receiver, but he's a playmaker type. So 3rd rounder, not a bad pick. But you give up a 3rd and 4th rounder for next year? I mean, they're already going to have depth issues because they're not going to have a ton of cap. They're not going to have draft capital. So to give up extra picks for that, I don't understand it.
Him and Ray Farmer are probably really good friends.
I mean, they must have just seen that guy on a really good day whenever they were scouting him and just for some reason fell in love with him. Because I agree, I don't get
That's
it.
That's ridiculous, yeah.
It doesn't make any sense to me. There must have been something that they see that no one else in the world sees.
Well, so what do you guys feel about the Miami? What is their final record going to be at the end of 2016?
Hold on, let's save the predictions for the end.
I'm
gonna have to pull up their schedule anyway.
But I think we agree the Dolphins had a pretty terrible offseason. So Let's move on to a different team that maybe we won't torch so bad. I guess
I
we'll
believe
go
it's
to
Buffalo, right?
the Buffalo Bills. Yes.
I like Buffalo.
I do too. I really like Tyrod Taylor.
Let's talk about their offseason, not our personal preferences. Although I agree, Tyrod
I like
Taylor.
their draft a lot. I don't know about you guys. Love their draft.
Elaborate a bit.
Reggie Ragland in the second round. I had him. He was a first round pick.
I thought he was going to be a first round pick.
He had some. What was it? A heart problem he had?
I don't know.
He had some medical issue, like come out like the day of the draft, or a couple days before the draft, and he dropped. And I thought Reggie Ragland was going to be like a middle of the pack first round pick.
I thought he was going to be somewhere probably between like 18 and 25.
I had him like 15 and 25. 15 to 25.
Yeah.
That's where I had him going. So that was great to get him in the second round. And then in the first round, they got the pass rusher, right? My God, his name is escaping my head right now.
Yeah.
Shaq Lawson? Was that them?
It was Shaq Lawson.
Oh, did they get Shaq Lawson?
Clemson,
I didn't
Shaq
realize
Lawson.
that. Oh, I mean, I really, really was high in Shaq Lawson coming into the
I
draft.
love Shaq Lawson.
Yeah.
I don't know how I couldn't think of his name there for a second, but that was the first two. They killed the first two rounds, and in my opinion, the first two rounds are the picks you have to hit. Like if you miss on a first or second round pick, it's a killer. I think they're going to hit on both of them. I think they're going to be really good players for a long time.
So,
And not only that, their defense was really bad last year, so they're upgrades.
talking about Ragland, right?
Yes, Reggie Ragland.
So what they gave up to get him, because they traded up 8 spots, they gave up their second rounder, and they sent 2 fourth rounders for him to move up 8 spots.
Did they have two fourth rounders this year, or did they have
No, one this year, one next year.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad because I mean,
because you're moving up to basically get someone who's a first round talent.
I think once you get down to the fourth round, like you're taking lottery tickets at that point. And Ragland's a guy that I think most people would a first round grade on.
Well,
So I mean, you're trading a couple of lottery tickets for a guy I think is going to be more likely to be a sure bet. I don't have any problem with that.
that's how teams build rosters, though. You have a lot of late. That's how the Patriots have done it for years. They get a lot of late round opportunities, so they end up getting deep rosters that are low cost, and you luck out on some guys.
I mean, I agree. I just don't think it was that much of a cost for a guy that I think should have been a first round pick.
Not every
Jason,
not every team is the Patriots.
That's true, but so you know that draft value chart?
Yes.
According to that chart, the Bills gave away, if you count the second rounder and the 2 fourth rounders, something equal to the 13th pick in the draft to get Ragland. Now, maybe Ragland's worth that. Maybe he's worth the 13th pick, but that's a high price to pay for a second rounder.
I mean, you could go off of that chart all day, but like that chart doesn't factor like talent, slides, like you know what I mean?
I mean, I feel like that chart is a good tool to use in your
it's a good
drafting,
tool
but at the same
pre-draft,
time, like they
but,
could have
like,
had that high of a grade on them. They might
You
have.
guys
done
are right.
something
It
with
doesn't factor in talent, but I don't know. I'm of the philosophy that teams are a little too arrogant at knowing who's going to be good or at thinking they know who's going to be good. And I don't think history shows that trading up is really teams are much better when they trade up or much more sure. They might think they are. But look at a team like the Saints.
Out in the past.
I just really like Ragland. I think he's a good pick. He's a good run stuffer for them. I think him and Shaq Lawson are going to be really, really good, really improve that defense.
Okay, I will agree to disagree.
Yeah.
You guys want to talk more about the offense because that was their.
Oh, well, one more
last
thing.
year.
They got rid of Mario Williams, which was probably a very good move.
Yeah,
Yes.
he did nothing last year.
And they signed Preston Brown,
Good move.
who I think is good. Yeah, so
Yeah, I like Preston Brown.
their horrendous defense from last year, which no one ever expected, might be it should be better. Yeah, let's move on to offense, because I know everyone here wants to talk about Tyrod Taylor.
I mean, I love Tyrod Taylor. I mean, you guys know how much, for years, I would just rag on the guy because of our good friend Billy Norris, who loves Tyrod. And I just would always love to hate on him. And then last year, he really, really surprised me. I was shocked. And
Very efficient.
Yeah,
he didn't
very.
He played a style of football I didn't expect him to play. Very high percentage throws. Not a lot of turnovers. I expected him to run a lot, but he had a lot of rushing yards. I don't know the exact number, but I believe
He was incredibly efficient with it, too.
Incredibly efficient. I'm going to look it up, actually.
They did a survey of NFL teams and asked teams who's the most athletic guy on your team, And most teams picked like a skill position or a defender. Buffalo players voted for Tyrod Taylor as the most athletic player on their team.
Yeah, Tyrod Taylor was 7th in the league in total QBR. Just ahead of Alex Smith, Cam Newton, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, and Ryan Fitzpatrick in that order.
20 touchdowns, 6 picks.
He led the league in completion percentage.
Get this.
He was hurt a couple games.
He missed 2 games, and he rushed for 568 yards, 4 touchdowns, averaged 7.5 yards a carry.
He was also one of the better quarterbacks at avoiding sacks, which, I mean, should be expected with his speed. But
he was sacked 36 times, which isn't terrible, but that's not great either.
Yeah, but I feel like, I don't know. I was just looking at his stats earlier. I thought I had him as better.
His offensive line isn't really that bad either.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a decent.
Typically, rushing quarterbacks get sacked more.
No, actually, no. I read it. That's my bad. I read it upside down. The chart. Yeah, no, that's me being an idiot.
Good.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Sammy Watkins? Because I think he's been a huge disappointment so far. There's an example, Kyle, of a team moving up to get what I thought also at the time was a star receiver. I thought it was the right move. But looking back on it, they could have gotten Beckham.
And I don't even think Watkins is a bad player. Yeah, they could have gotten Beckham. They could have even gotten Allen Robinson or something. It was a wide receiver.
Allen Robinson was a 2nd or 3rd round pick, right?
Yeah, and they could have stayed back and picked him not even with their first rounder. I think teams, it's a principle. They're too arrogant about thinking they know who will be good. I don't think Watkins is a bad player.
No, he's not.
I think he's good. I don't think he's
top 5 pick probably.
Yeah, the problem with Watkins isn't that he hasn't been good. It's that he's underperformed. Like he hasn't hit expectations. Last year he missed like 3 or 4 games and he still had over 1,000 yards.
Did he? I didn't even know he missed any time.
Here, let me look him up.
His skill level reminds me a lot of Jeremy Maclin early in his career. Like never like a great player, but he was good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Good, solid player. I think he's got room for improvement.
Yeah, Watkins, 13 games, 60 receptions, 1,047 yards, 17.5 average, 9 touchdowns. That's a solid season. It's just that it wasn't what people expected from him.
Actually, I disagree. If he plays all 16 games and stays on the same pace, you're talking about a guy who has 1,300 yards about.
That's pretty good, yeah. I didn't realize he had that good of a year, honestly.
He's been pretty good. It wasn't worth the trade-off. But very good player. His piece still key if he stays healthy.
He is a key. He is absolutely key to their team. And what do you guys think about LaShawn McCoy? Because I people still rave about him. I think he's a great player. I think from 2013 to 2014, he lost a major step.
Well, Pro Football Focus had him drop the season before he was traded. He was one of the top running backs in the league, like top 5 running back in the league. But then what was it? Pro Football Focus, I think, had him ranked like 57th of 60 or something like that.
I remember it as
the year he got traded, 55. Right? Was that what it was?
53rd out of 55. Yeah,
okay, yeah.
I knew it was perfect, but point is he fell off a lot. And last year, you could argue he got outperformed by Carlos Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
He's not worth the money they're paying him. Is the problem?
Not at all. I think after this year, I think this season you're going to see a steep decline in McCoy. I think he's shot.
I agree with you. I didn't think the trade was awful for the Eagles at the time.
I liked it.
I liked it at the time, and I mean now, I mean they don't even have Kiko anymore, so it worked out.
And the Bills also gave Charles Clay an unbelievable contract.
Yeah,
I forgot to mention that.
That was when I saw that pop up on the ticker at the bottom ESPN screen. I was really shocked.
Essentially, from what I understand about the deal, they're at least going to have to pay him $24 million over the next 3 years.
Yeah, but what was their rationale behind that? I can't figure that out.
They didn't want Miami to match. They wanted to give him a deal big enough that Miami wouldn't match, which they accomplished by giving him a terrible deal.
Yeah, I still don't. I feel like that was just whoever his agent is should be really proud of himself.
Listen to this. He made $5 million this year, and he ended the season on injured reserve. He'll make $6 million in 2016, $9 million for 2017, 2018, and 2019.
And I just want to point out that Clay has declined every single year he's been in the league. This is normally the exact, logically, that's the exact opposite of what you would want out of a tight end. to state the obvious there. That's my John Gruden analysis.
And that's a lot to pay a tight end anyway. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're not getting a guy who's
Especially one that's not really that. I think he's a decent player. I don't think he's a star. Nobody thinks he's a star.
no, and he doesn't play like it. He has 2,300 career yards in 5 seasons. It's okay. Anyway, you guys want to? So we've pretty much savaged Buffalo and Miami, actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which, I mean,
Because honestly, like if you want me to be real, I'm not a big fan of the AFC East other than New England. New England just runs the division. They're going to get 12-4 every year as long as Brady's there. They're going to win. They're going to get one of the top seeds, 1 or 2. They're going to make it to the AFC Championship game, and they might make it to a Super Bowl.
the
I
AFC
think
is
Buffalo's offensive line is good. I think I got to give them some credit there because we've been saying all this negative stuff, and they're probably going to be an okay.
Yeah, I said that. I thought Buffalo had a decent
Okay,
offensive line.
Kyle. I know we disagree, but I did like Buffalo's draft. I mean, the rest of their offseason, not great, but I like their
I'm a
draft.
process guy. I think it might work out, but the process behind it was flawed. That's what I'll stick with. Anyway, let's move on to the Jets.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about Fitzpatrick. And
absolutely.
what's going on with that?
That's
That's the big thing.
That and Hackenberg are
I mean,
really the main things we're going to be talking about. with
Hackenberg
this team.
is off. I have always maintained that since his freshman year at Penn State, because we have in the Philly market been just saturated with all kinds of Penn State stuff and all this Hackenberg coverage ever since his freshman year, because everyone said, oh, he's going to be the number 1 pick in the draft when he enters, and everyone around here thought he was the savior of Penn State football, and he was just terrible. I mean, I understand he went through coaching changes and all, but 2014 to sophomore year, he had 12 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and a 55.8 completion percentage, 6.2 yards an attempt. Just absolutely terrible.
And it's not like the
Yeah,
Big Ten's
coaching
best
change
conference
doesn't-
in college football. He's not going against SEC defenses every week.
You're right. That also. I just don't think a coaching change justifies you going from your freshman year, 20 touchdowns, 10 picks, getting sacked 21 times, completing 58.9%, which isn't that great, but it was a freshman. So, and then throwing for basically 3,000 yards. Decent season for a freshman.
He also had
Dropping
Allen
off-
Robinson.
He did.
But
He did.
Okay.
And you see what he's doing in the NFL. And then in 2014, as Jake said, the drop-off was just incredible. And then, I mean, the touchdown to interception ratio was okay, I guess, in 2015. That was 16-6.
I mean, but you don't that's just not enough touchdowns to see.
But his completion percentage went down every year. It went from 59 basically to 55.8 to 53.5.
I mean, just from watching him so much and all of his highlights, because we have to watch them in the Philly market all the time, it's almost like he became worse at decision making over his 3 years, which is incredible. He just couldn't make.
he took some bad sacks.
He couldn't make
some
reads.
Really bad sacks.
Yeah, he took a lot of bad sacks. Just, I don't see how anyone ever saw the first overall pick potential in him, other outside of his size. I just never understood.
Well, I mean, after his freshman year, I could say it. Maybe like he had a decent freshman year. You have to give him that.
He was mediocre.
I thought he was decent. I thought he was pretty good. Considering what Penn State was dealing with around that time, I know that was happening in like 2011, but they had to rebuild that whole program. I thought he was going to be pretty freaking good.
I want to read a quote from, there's an NFL writer, Bill Barnwell, usually a pretty good writer. He said that Hackenberg is the exact sort of quarterback who teams overrate, a passer with prototypical size and arm strength who struggled with accuracy throughout college. Teams will say that as a freshman he looked very good, but we now have twice as much evidence from the ensuing seasons that he isn't even a good quarterback.
Yeah,
And
I agree
with whoever wrote
100%. That is exactly, I don't think I could say it any better than that.
So, okay, what went right in
Not
the
worth
Jets
a second round
offseason? Let's get some complimentary stuff here.
that. What went right?
Yeah, what did they do right?
Well, they acquired Ryan Clady
Okay.
and a 7th round pick from Denver for a 2016 5th round draft pick.
I also think not overpaying Fitzpatrick was good.
And I think the
They're
Fitzpatrick
standing
deal
their
on the
ground,
table is a fair offer for both sides. Right now, 3-year deal, $12 million in the first year. Apparently, not too much guaranteed, but it wasn't the low ball that was initially reported. I think
we can all agree though that if the Jets can't work out a deal with him, they're screwed this
yeah,
year.
but I don't think there's any way he doesn't go back. Schefter thinks he's going to go back. I mean, I don't see where else.
Give him till camp. I think he'll sign before camp, like at the latest.
Yeah, no, he'll be back.
I think they're leveraging properly, so good for them on that front.
And Fitzpatrick last year, surprisingly enough, was just slightly ahead of Tom Brady in total QBR. Not that that really means anything, but just an interesting tidbit that Fitzpatrick actually was better than his normal average self last year.
Oh, he had his best season by far.
And he has the one of the greatest nicknames of all time. Kyle, would you like to say it? Or Jason has it.
If anyone's
Kyle,
into
remember that song, the Amish Rifle song?
I was about to say that if you're into terrible songs on YouTube, there is a song by a Buffalo band about the Amish rifle. It's worth listening to for the appreciation of its interestingness. We'll put a link to it in the description of the video so you can check it out.
Yes, we will.
One other problem with the Jets offseason, because this is apparently the most negative podcast we'll ever do, they gave all of the money to running backs.
Yeah, I don't like the Matt Forte signing. Not for necessarily the Jets. I don't think it was because they lost Chris Ivory. We didn't talk about that. Chris Ivory was really good for them last year.
Which really pisses me off. I took that guy every year in fantasy.
and
then finally this year, the year I don't take him. Terrible.
I don't know how well I mean, Matt Forte fits any scheme, really. I think he's a really good, underrated player. But for Matt Forte, like, why would he want to go there? They don't have a chance to win a Super Bowl.
It could have been the best offer.
Well, they gave him the most money, and it's also New York.
But at this point, I don't know. Like, should he really be carrying out the money at this point?
No, it's pretty much they're going to pay him and Bilal Powell $4 million a year each. That's a lot of $8 million a year to a couple okay running backs.
One okay running back and one running back that's on the decline.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah.
And next year, after this year, they're going to count like $10 million against the cap combined, apparently.
Ooh, that's brutal.
So
what would the penalties be?
I don't know.
Kyle's better at that.
I'll go to over
the penalties and whatnot.
Penalties, I don't know exactly, but they might have to use them because neither of those guys are going to be great. So I really think the only positive for them is maybe Clady not overpaying Fitzpatrick, but Fitzpatrick's a double-edged sword because that also means it's May and they don't have a quarterback.
It's a problem. I mean, you can't go into the year with Geno Smith, who is proven to be a backup at best. Bryce Petty, who's a super project, fourth-round pick project, who was very good in college, but he's not ready to play in the NFL. And then Christian Hackenberg, who I have no faith in whatsoever.
Oh, yikes.
He's not good at football.
The dead money and cap savings are not great for the Jets next year. not good.
You want to elaborate?
Matt Forte, cap number next year is $5 million, but if they want to cut him, it'll be $6 million against the cap. For Bilal Powell, $4.6 million next year, but they'll have $4.2 in dead money. They'll only save $366,000 if they decide to cut him next year.
So no matter how bad those two are, they're both going to be on the team again.
Yeah.
Getting paid a decent amount of money.
I mean, unless the Dolphins want to trade for them, which never counted out.
Mike Tannenbaum will pull a quick one with his former team.
There you go. At least the Dolphins don't usually overpay running backs, I think.
I mean, they paid no Sean Moreno after 2013.
And they tried to pay C.J. Anderson this year. Okay, good.
Yeah, everybody ripped up his neck. So, yeah, they do.
Okay. You know what? Let's move on to a team that generally does things well. Although, honestly, I don't know if their offseason was even great. The Patriots.
The Patriots might be the most boring team in football, simply for the fact that they're consistently great.
No, I love their offseason.
Okay.
They signed Terrence Knighton. They re-signed LeGarrette Blount. They cut Dominic Easley, who was a bust. At least Belichick's smart enough to cut ties.
But do you know who they did sign? E.J. Biggers. The worst football player I think I've ever seen in my life.
Not that bad.
Okay. Stop, Kyle.
Well, I'm going to say, like, a theory of it, E.J. Biggers. He looks worse because he has dreadlocks. So when he does those super aggressive whiffs on tackles, it shows up more and people notice it more because his hair flails everywhere.
But, I mean, Kyle, he wasn't good enough to play on the historically bad Redskins defense a couple years ago. Like,
I'm not saying he's a good player.
No,
I'm just saying there are factors that make him look worse than he is.
Maybe, but he's one of the worst football players I think I've ever watched in my entire life.
I don't know if he's one of the worst I've ever seen, but he definitely is a below average defensive player.
I don't think his coverage is that bad. It's not good.
I mean, every time I heard his name, Kyle, he was getting beat.
No, I think you heard his name when he was whiffing on tackles. I mean, he got beat a decent amount, too.
Kyle, he was not good. You can't justify this.
Okay, fine.
I don't like that signing for New England, but they also signed Chris Long, who I think has he's not done yet. New England always picks up those, older vets. And then Shea McClellan, I don't know if you remember him. He's a linebacker for Chicago, kind of considered a bust. He was a first-round pick. But I think he could be a decent pass rusher for New England. Maybe a possible replacement for Chandler Jones, who they traded to Arizona.
Yeah, actually, I love their free agency and stuff. It was so cheap.
They got a second-round pick back for that, and Jonathan Cooper, who's up to this point considered a bust. But I feel like New England is, if you can't resurrect your career in New England, you can't resurrect your career anywhere.
Yeah, that trade I didn't love. Although I guess if they weren't going to re-sign Jones.
I like the Clay Harbor signing. Not that he's great, but it was just very, very little money committed.
They love their
they love their tight ends. He might have a pretty decent season next year.
They also
if Brady, he'll have a decent season.
Free agent bidding wars are just bad for your cap, so they go for guys that no one else is going for, which is why they don't spend a lot, but they get a lot of productive contributors.
Yeah, I mean, Belichick
Plus, they
is a
have
genius.
the greatest quarterback of all time, and also maybe the greatest head coach of all time, and the greatest defensive mind of all time, and that makes everything a lot easier as well.
So Jason really likes Bill Belichick, everyone, in case you couldn't tell.
I don't like him as a human being, but I mean, I definitely respect. I mean, he's a great head coach. You can say whatever you want about Spygate and Deflategate and everything. Belichick, regardless of Spygate, regardless of Deflategate was stupid.
I agree. Deflategate was stupid. Spygate was legit.
Regardless of that, that guy's a genius. And
well, that's the one thing
Brady,
we haven't touched on yet. The Patriots are supposed to be without their quarterback for the first 4 games.
Oh my God, how did that slip my mind? Yeah, they're going to be without Brady for the first 4 games.
One question is, where exactly does the U.S. court system come into play here? Like, where did that come from?
I have no idea. It's ridiculous.
Jake,
Roger Goodell sucks at everything. I don't know.
You might get a law degree. This is your job.
I mean, I might, but I just don't understand why it's like a significant issue for our courts to deal with. Like, I mean, the NFL, I think, are more than capable of handling that with Brady.
The NFL is one of the biggest businesses in the United States. It is a business. But I don't know why I agree with you. I don't know why they got that.
Well, Brady sued in court.
Is that what it was?
Isn't that what happened? Well, why is he able to sue?
Kyle
I have no idea.
Might be right.
I just remember seeing that Brady, that his whole thing had been overturned by the courts, that he had a longer suspension. I had no idea what was going on.
So I have a question for you two real quick. I'm looking at New England, the first 4 games for New England. That won't give away my final schedule prediction of New England, but they got their go-to Arizona. That has potential to be a really, really tough game for them.
I think they're going to lose that regardless of if he plays.
You think so?
I mean, they could win, but I think it's a game they're likely to lose. It's a road game against a great team. Not many teams win that.
Going off topic with Arizona, I'm not going to touch on them too much. I just want to... I mean, Bruce Arians, he's right up there. I mean, I think he might be the second or third best head coach in football also. So he's a great offensive mind. Anyway, Miami, they always split with Miami, but they get Miami at home during this stretch. So they'll win that game. They're Thursday night. They have a short week. They play on Thursday night against Houston at home. I guess I think they're gonna win that game, right?
I think they'll beat Houston. I think they beat Houston and
then they're home against Buffalo.
I think they lose to the
they'll
Bills.
win that game too.
I think they go 2-2 in that stretch.
I think they're gonna go 3-1, and they go to Cleveland and home against Cincinnati at. Actually,
I think they'll make the playoffs either way. It's not gonna be easy, but.
No, they'll make the playoffs, yeah.
I think the Brady thing is at worst like a 1-win swing, which I don't think is going to deter.
They play Buffalo twice in the first 8 weeks.
Huh.
Wow. They have a tough little run though. They go to Cleveland, which is easy, but then after that they have when Brady comes back. Week 5 they go to Cleveland. Then they come home, but they play Cincinnati. That's okay. So
Cincinnati's. I think I know why it's a U.S. court issue. We should really know this for sure, but So
Yeah,
I
touch
think
on that a little
it's about the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. Someone has to enforce whether it's enforced correctly. So the NFL says this is the commissioner's power. The players say this is the player's power. So essentially, the lawsuit is about, was the suspension within Goodell's authority? Did it get applied right? Is the league acting on their own rules properly? That's what it's about. So it's about application of their contract.
Okay, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Also, they're really rich, so their case gets heard probably quicker.
Yeah, take a look at New England's schedule. It's actually kind of brutal.
I mean, they have Seattle late in the season.
They play the NFC West.
Yeah, I had to pull up their schedule. I forget the rest of it.
They go to Denver, which I don't think Denver's going to be that great this year, but I mean, I think they're going to actually improve on offense with Peyton Manning not being their quarterback.
Oh, Denver? Yeah, I mean, that's
Yeah.
pretty safe.
I think Sanchez, honestly, is better. 2016 Mark Sanchez is better than 2015 Peyton Manning.
Although I think Denver's going to get
horrible.
worse on defense just because it's hard to be as good as they.
They lost Trevathan and Malik Jackson, and I feel like I'm forgetting someone else that they lost.
And
they
it's
were
just
also-
hard to replicate the level of play they
What
had.
they did, especially in the
They were
preseason,
historically
yeah.
good last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're going to get worse.
I mean,
they're
well-
tough. And they play Miami away in the last week, which always tends to be tough.
They always lose that. They always play Miami week 17, and they always lose.
Yeah.
It's always in Miami. And it's always for the number one seed. Like, if they win, they get the number one seed. If they lose, they
And
don't.
that hurt them last year. That might have been.
It hurt them last year, and it hurt them in 2013, too.
Mm-hmm.
They would have gotten both years Denver. They would have gotten Denver at home in both of those AFC.
So essentially, the Broncos are going to go to the Super Bowl this year? Is that.
Yes, that is the statement that I just.
Okay.
Mark Sanchez, franchise quarterback.
Dude, I would love
I
that.
swear
just
to
to see
God,
the
if Mark Sanchez gets a
about
ring,
that.
and then Dan Marino and Donovan McNabb don't.
Well, I mean,
And
I
only
think
the
that I
Philly-
think throwing McNabb in there with Marino is a bit of a stretch, but all right.
I mean, if you put a ring on McNabb's hand, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know about you. He was one of the top 5 best quarterbacks in football for like almost 10 years.
I think he might get in off of the reputation of those Eagles teams.
McNabb's not getting.
No, I meant like if he'd won a Super Bowl.
If you want to shoot, you don't think McNabb was good enough to be a Hall of Fame quarterback?
He's borderline for me.
I think he's borderline too. But if you put a ring on his finger and he wins a Super Bowl for the city of Philadelphia,
I still think. I mean, he would just based off of the emotional. He won a Super Bowl for Philly, all that. But
anyway, I'm
It's a
sorry. We're
good
going to
part
get
of
topic. We're talking
Patriots
about the Eagles.
preview. Yeah, I was about to
Yeah.
say.
I'm sorry. As you guys could probably tell, I am a big Eagles fan.
I see what you mean about the tough little stretch. The Patriots have 4 out of 5 on the road, which is something you don't usually see. And the one home game,
Their home game is against Cincinnati.
no, it's against Seattle. So before it is against
Oh,
Cincinnati.
I'm looking at a different area. Yeah. Okay.
So they have
They're
Cincinnati, and then so they have 5 out of 7 on the road, and the only 2 home games are Cincinnati and Seattle. There's no gimme for 7 weeks.
Oh, that's brutal.
I think they'll be fine.
Yeah, they'll be fine. I still think they're 12-4.
So yeah, let's get to our division predictions. Jason, you
Sounds
might as well
good.
start us off. Rationales, reasoning.
You said Jason or
Jason, you
Sorry.
just gave your record.
Okay. Yeah, I did it by accident. I apologize.
Go.
New England, I feel like they go 12-4 every year. I mean, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. They're going to go 12-4. Do you want to hear what I have to say about the Jets? Do you want me to just run down the list here?
Yeah, go in your divisional order.
All right. I'll go what I think it's going to be. All right. So I think New England obviously is going to win the division. I think Buffalo is going to come in second. I think Tyrod Taylor, quarterback's everything in the NFL. I think he's going to continue to, even though it's his 6th year or whatever, I still think he's going to continue to progress. He hasn't played a lot. I think he's going to be efficient again. And I think the Bills are going to be like 8-8, 9-7. I mean, it's tough to be really good in the AFC. Well, not anymore, but in the AFC East, it is tough. Third, I'm going to have to go the Jets. I'll go the Jets. I think they're gonna. I don't like the quarterback situation. I don't know if Fitzpatrick's gonna be able to replicate what he did last year. Also, let's say he doesn't re-sign, they are completely screwed, and I think they'll actually have a top 10 pick. So I'm gonna say the Jets between 6-10, 7-9. Miami, they stink. I don't like Miami. I'm sorry, any Miami fan that are listening to this. I don't like what they did. I think Miami's a 5-11, 4-12 kind of football team.
yeah, I'm with Jason. I mean, I think the AFC East is going to be the most boring division of football next year, just because you know it's going to happen. I think that New England goes 10-6. I think that they'll go 2-2 in the stretch without Brady, and they go 10-6. I think that Buffalo finishes second in 9-7, and Jets go 7-9. I think Fitzpatrick's going to still be decent, better than he has throughout his career, but not the same level of play as last year. And I think that Miami will be lucky to get 4 wins, unless Tannehill really, really doesn't suck like he did last year.
One thing we actually didn't touch on about Miami is that they got a new head coach, Adam Gase, who I actually really like. So, I think Adam Gase is a really good offensive mind. So if anyone can make Tannehill, good, I think it's him. We'll see, though. I think as of right now, I'm not too high on the Dolphins.
No, I think that they'll be lucky to get 4 or 5 wins. I think 3-13.
So I was gonna go the same thing as you guys, which is kind of boring. Have you seen the Jets' first 6 weeks?
Actually, I
don't think I've ever seen. Listen, so it's Cincinnati at home week 1.
At Buffalo, at KC, yikes.
Home against Seattle, at Pittsburgh, and at Arizona.
Oh my god!
I think they're going to start like 1-5.
Yeah, never.
Especially if they don't have Fitzpatrick.
Okay, so if they have Fitzpatrick, I think they might go 6-10 or 5-11 because once you start terribly, it has a ripple effect.
I'm with you, Kyle. I still think it's going to change where they finish in the division. They're still going to be 3rd.
And then after that, they still have to play the Patriots twice. Like, it doesn't include
That's probably 7 losses.
Although the rest of their schedule is not too bad. I'm going to go 6-10 for the Jets. Similar to you guys, though. Patriots, I think, will win comfortably. Buffalo, I could see them going something like 10-6.
But you don't see Buffalo winning the division.
No, but if I'm predicting that close, there's a chance. I think Buffalo, if their offense can replicate it, and I have no reason why they couldn't, it's a young offense, and they kept their line together, their defense just has to be like average, and they'll be a very good team. And I see that happening. Also, their schedule doesn't look as brutal because their hard games are more spread out, and they have some advantageous games at home. Like, they get Pittsburgh at home, they get Arizona at home.
That's good for them.
They don't have to go to the West Coast too much. I think they have to go to Oakland and Seattle, actually.
They have to go to LA, and they fly back to play the 49ers.
Oh, see, I saw the Rams and didn't even think it was West Coast.
Yeah, I know. I already forgot. I just remembered that. I actually thought West Coast because I saw 49ers, and I realized that was at home. But then I looked up and saw LA.
Okay, so they don't have an easy schedule. None of these teams do, because they have the NFC West, and they also have the AFC West, or the AFC North as their 2 divisions. Not easy opponents. So maybe actually the teams will end up worse than I was saying. But I think the Patriots will be good. I think Buffalo will be 2nd. Jets 3rd. Dolphins will be a disaster. Seems like consensus.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the AFC East is the most boring division in football.
3 average quarterbacks and 1 really good one. That's what you get. Barring Tyrod Taylor being very good again, which is possible.
Tyrod Taylor, yeah, I think he's going to be above. I think Tyrod Taylor is a good quarterback.
More than this division has had in a while, though.
Yes.
I guess we're good here.
Well, I guess we're going to wrap this up.
It was fun, guys.
Next time we'll be back with NFC.
We're going to do NFC South.
Okay. So you'll get some fun quarterback discussion there. We go from a division.
Absolutely, that's a good division.
Yeah, we go from a division with 1 good quarterback to a division with probably 4 good quarterbacks.
All 4 of them. All 4 teams have good quarterbacks.
And probably 3 bad defenses, too. So it should be a fun discussion.
Oh, yeah, that'll be a good
Anyway,
one.
we'll see you next time. And make sure to check out the Amish Rifle song if you haven't yet.
We'll put it in the link.
And also, if you do not, I will put that in the link. If you don't follow us on Twitter, we're at NFL Chiggity. I basically do most of the tweeting. If you hit us with a tweet, I'll respond. We can talk. Don't be shy. So, if you want to talk football.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, have a good one.